Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Amen. Amen. Bad jokes in sermons are better than no jokes in sermons, so here we go again. There was a child psychologist who was well known for opposing the idea of parents spanking their children. Now, he had no children himself, you understand, but he'd written articles and made speeches against spanking kids. Well, one day this guy was working around his suburban home, and he had a new cement sidewalk poured, and he was out there all afternoon with his trowel, scraping it and smoothing it and making it look just beautiful. He finished up the work. He was in his garage washing off his tools, and he looked out and saw a little boy from the neighborhood putting handprints in the fresh cement. And he ran out and he started spanking this little boy. Well, a neighbor from across the street saw him and said, "Hey, Doc, remember, love kids, don't spank them." And the psychologist said, "I love him in the abstract, but not in the concrete." Okay, maybe no sermons is better than bad joke. Anyway, in the Bible, love is not about words or feelings. In the Bible, love is an action. We are called to love others in the concrete. Love is something we do. Now, today's story from Luke's Gospel gives the inaugural speech of Jesus. At the beginning of his public work, he adopts the words of the prophet Isaiah as his theme: caring for the poor, caring for prisoners, caring for the disabled. Luke's Gospel will go on to show Jesus in action, doing just those things. And in one sense, Jesus was doing something new. But in another sense, Jesus was doing something very old and carrying on an old tradition. Jesus was not a Christian. Jesus was a Jew. He was born into the Jewish tradition. He was raised in the Jewish tradition and remained faithful to it all his life. He viewed his mission as renewal of that Jewish tradition he had inherited. Now, the movement he started eventually started to draw in Gentiles. And after decades, there were so many Gentiles, it actually became a separate religion, the one we call Christianity. But we look back to his life and back to his Jewish tradition for our roots. Love is not a feeling, but an action. That was the way of ancient Judaism. That was the way Jesus lived and taught, and that's the way for us as well. The church is dedicated to enacting the vision of Jesus in our time and in our place. Now, today is the annual meeting of St. Mark's Episcopal Church. After the liturgy today, we will eat together and do some required business to take care of our structure. But the point of this business and the point of our structure is to enable us to live out the vision of Jesus. Now, we all bring our own backgrounds with us into church, and that goes for me too. I often think of the church, at its best, as my family. And I was lucky enough to grow up in a good family. It helped make me who I am. Wasn't a perfect family, still isn't, but I have been shaped by being a Giroux. And I'm also shaped by my mother's side, the Junks family. My Giroux grandparents had 13 kids, and they all reproduced. So I grew up in a really big tribe, and that taught me something. The more, the merrier. My grandpa Giroux once said to me, "Big families are wonderful." Well, that's how church is supposed to be too. The love of Christ welcomes everybody. So the more, the merrier. I also learned from growing up in my particular tribe that it takes all kinds. And this was a harder lesson for me to learn as kind of a shy sort of kid. Between the two sides of my family, there are some unusual characters. I have cousins who seem like they are from a different species. And I bet all of you and your families can relate to what I'm feeling here. But we're all in the same family. And it's just like church. It takes all kinds, so we welcome all kinds. And eating together was a big deal, too. My grandpa Giroux used to say, none of my kids ever went hungry. And they never had a lot of money. There were 15 of them all told, but they made sure they got everyone fed. And from my mom's side of the family, I am sure that my favorite holiday to this day is not Christmas, but Thanksgiving. And the reason for that, I think, is because of the wonderful feasts my grandmother Jumps prepared in her home for the whole family up near Watertown, New York. Make sure everyone gets fed. My grandparents did that, and the church is called to do the same. St. Mark's Church likes to feed people. It's one of our slogans. We want to help everyone get fed. We do it through our child pantry. And don't forget to bring food for the pantry next Sunday. We do it through our work at the Trinity Feeding Canteen program. And we've got a team there today working on that. And we offer food for the heart to all comers in this meal of the bread and wine of the Eucharist. We want to make sure everyone gets fed. Unlike that psychologist in my really terrible joke, we hope to love others not in the abstract, but in the concrete. So along with Luke the Evangelist, and Jesus of Nazareth, and Grandpa Giroux, and Grandma Jumps, I'll say it again. Love is not a feeling, it's an action. The more, the merrier. It takes all kinds. Let's make sure everyone gets fed.